I'm half Japanese. I was born in Tokyo, so really I don't really feel more New Zealand or Japanese. I'm kind of really half and half. So we moved to New Zealand when I was 8, then I left to go to the Australian Ballet School in Melbourne when I was 15. So, and then now Paris has actually been the longest place I've lived in. So I guess I mingle in well with the French now, and I'm confident enough to, you know, I guess, be in Paris and live my way through. But I still do feel Japanese, New Zealander at heart. So I first started dancing because very basically my mum took me to dance classes because she saw me dancing around at home, jumping around, and she thought, oh, maybe she might like ballet. So I started, you know, baby classes when I was 3, and I pretty much didn't stop. I did a lot of other activities, you know, growing up, a lot of sport, tennis, swimming, athletics and all of that. But I guess I couldn't fit everything in, and it was always cancelling out something so I could fit in more ballet, and it eventually kind of, yeah, faded just into ballet. I didn't have a point actually where I told myself, this is when I'm, you know, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I kind of just always told myself I would be a ballet dancer, and that's what I was going to do, and that's what I wanted to do. There wasn't really a turning point in my, you know, young age where I decided to be more serious about it. My idols growing up, I mean, there were so many ballerinas, but notably, most of them were from the Paris Opera. Agnès Le Testu, Aurélie Dupont, Monique Ludière, Isabelle Guérin, all of those, you know, beautiful ballerinas from here. Yeah, I really looked up to all of them a lot when I was younger. I watched a lot of videos and I had photos everywhere. One of the most, I think, important moments of when I was a student was when I was chosen to go to the Prix de Lausanne from the Australian Ballet School, and it was the first time I guess I had the opportunity to work with my director, Marilyn Rowe, and working with Miss Rowe was, I think, one of the most eye-opening moments, because she worked a lot with Rudolf Nureyev when he came to Australia to do Don Q and all of that. So she was very much influenced, I felt. Now being in the Paris Opera and, you know, dancing his repertoire, she's, I think, very much influenced by his work. And yeah, I think the style that she was asking me to interpret, I guess the pathway she was taking me into was something that I really latched onto, and it was, I think, also part of the reason where I really wanted to come to Paris and, I guess, yeah, dance here. So I won the Prix de Lausanne the year I competed in 2009, but I obviously had the first choice for the scholarships, but I decided to go back. I used my scholarship to the Australian Ballet School because I didn't feel the need to go anywhere else. I was very happy, and so yeah. I was allowed to take a couple of days to come back to Australia, so I made a little detour to London and Paris. It was my first time in Europe, and so I got the opportunity to see a performance here at the Garnier, and I saw also the Royal Ballet at the Opera House. And seeing those two performances, I really knew that this is where I wanted to dance, in Europe. So ever since then, I mean, because the Australian Ballet, the company is at the end of the hallway of the school, we see them every day. I mean, they're a great company. And I sort of saw my career path feeding in that way. But then there was something just not quite right. I told myself that if I wanted to really pursue my dream, there was no, it wasn't going to hurt to try. The worst thing that could happen was that, it was a no and that was it. So I knew that I had to try when I was young, otherwise I would never probably try ever again. So in my last year at the school, I asked my director if I was allowed to take a few days off to go and do the audition, and she very kindly accepted. So she prepared me for the audition. She coached me on the variation, so I came to Paris. I did the audition, and obviously not knowing a word of French, and even the system here is very complicated, so we don't really understand anything, especially when even being a dancer here, sometimes we don't understand everything, so let alone just auditioning. It was a little bit confusing how the system worked, I guess. But so I came fourth in the concours. I didn't get a contract initially, but then as I was going back to Melbourne, they called me and asked me if I would like to join as a seasonal contractor dancer. And so there was no hesitation there. And so I came back to Paris straight away in September. I graduated a little bit earlier. And so I was what we call a CDD, which is a seasonal contract. For 2 years, I was quite lucky because every year I had a full year contract. So I got to stay for a whole season. And so it was after my second year as a CDD dancer that I was officially, as we say in French, engaged as a full-time member of the company. Definitely remember my first performance. So I guess it wasn't a dance as such, but it was, I think 2 days after I arrived in Paris, because I arrived a little bit late, they asked me to do the défilé because I guess they were missing a couple of dancers. So that was my first ever performance. 2 days after I had arrived in Paris, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But so I défiled down the whole stage. So yeah, that was pretty magical. My favorite would have to be probably Garnier. Garnier is really our home, I guess. It's where I have my dressing room. It's pretty much like my second apartment. This building is so filled with history. It's very mystical. I don't know, there's a real feeling of, I think it's very cozy, and even, being on the stage, it's a lot more kind of warm, I guess. The Bastille is very big and large and open, and it's very different. It's quite nice as well to kind of have that distance with the audience, but you definitely feel very far away, and it's a little bit more daunting, I guess. But yeah, I'm very lucky. I have a dressing room by myself. I'm not sharing with anybody. I stayed in my dressing room with the Corps de Ballet for a very long time, actually, because I was with my really good friends, and it was a lot of fun. And I didn't becoming a soloist very young. I guess I didn't really feel the need to isolate myself completely straight away. So I stayed in the Corps dressing room for quite a while, and then one of the étoiles, Amandine, she had her new dressing room that had just been finished. So she said, "Do you have a new dress? Which dressing room are you in?" And I said, "Oh, I'm still in the Corps de Ballet." She's like, "Oh, well, you should take mine, because mine is quite small for the étoiles. They all have very amazing, glamorous, dressing rooms." Because apparently before, back in, a little while ago, it was a dressing room for one of the premières danseuses. So I was like, oh. So I took the opportunity, and so it became my dressing room, number 47 on the second floor. And I love my dressing room. I have my own bathroom. I have a couch. I have mirrors everywhere. No, it's very luxurious. So my repertoire that I've danced already includes all three styles: classical, neoclassical, contemporary. For me to be a dancer now, today, 2021, 22 and onwards, it's very important for me, dancers that are versatile, and I think it's great to put yourself out of your comfort zone, put a bit of danger, and we learn so much from all other styles, working with lots of choreographers. So I always tell myself that even if the experience maybe isn't the way we want it to be, or is as nice as we want it to be, it's always an experience, and that's something that's a plus for. There is a role that I would love to do one day, and that I actually have done before, but my dream would be to be able to perform it here at the Garnier, which is Giselle. I recently performed Kitri in December for the first time. I had very little preparation, but I had a wonderful time on stage. It was really, really fun. I think I'm naturally more of a soft sort of a dancer, but I've mostly been cast into sort of femme fatale and, harder, I guess, personalities. And so I've worked a lot on that. So I love, interpreting all of those. But I would like to explore a little bit more of the vulnerable side of me in the future. I had the opportunity to dance in the Le Rouge et le Noir of Pierre Lacotte at the beginning of the season. It was kind of like, I guess it was my first character, dramatic ballet, and I really, really enjoyed that. So I hope that I'll be able to dance more of those kind of ballets in the future, but I always try and make the most of every role, every piece that I, dance, and try and sort of own, give it my personal touch. So I've done a little bit of guesting and galas and things, I guess. With COVID, it kind of put a stop to it all, but I think it's all coming back slowly. But I do really enjoy going and visiting other companies and. Going away, I always appreciate my company so much when I come back. I love the experience that I have outside, but then coming back to the Paris Opera, I feel really at home, and I feel like I've really chosen my place. So, the most challenging ballet I have had to ever dance in, probably physically, was Paquita de Pierre Lacotte, because Paquita, she just does not stop dancing the whole of the first act, and by the time you get to the grand pas, you're absolutely soaked, but at the same time, That was a really fun ballet to do. Otherwise, Myrtha is quite a challenging role as well, physically, and yeah, it's a big chunk. I guess she only comes in on the second act, but it's very challenging too. Oh yes, I've had disasters on stage. As a soloist, maybe a little less, but when I was in the corps de ballet, actually this was before I was engaged into the company, and we were doing Ballet. And so I was understudy for the corps de ballet, and then so my turn comes around to understudy. And the first show I had, I was in the front line. I was really nervous, but somehow it went really well. The ballet masters were really happy. And then I think it was the second time or something like that, I put my foot down, or I sort of hesitated in the retiré, and so that obviously didn't go down so well. So I got bumped back 2 lines, and I was in the 3rd line. And then that was probably, I put my foot down in the arabesque. I was so nervous. I had my supporting leg that was having a drama of its own. And yeah, I pretty much told myself that was the end of my career. But luckily, people were able to, sort of look over that. But yeah, that was probably the biggest disaster. So Paris is really full of museums and beautiful spots, and you can go walking all day long and just be surrounded by beauty. But one place I do really like going to is the Musée de Montmartre up in the 18th. There's a museum, and in the museum is a garden with a fountain in the middle, and it's a really, really pretty garden. It's very peaceful, and I like going there sometimes with my friends, or even just alone, reading a book and having a drink. So yeah, and it's very pretty. I recommend. Since COVID, no, I haven't been back to New Zealand, unfortunately. But I was very lucky, and my parents have come over. So I've seen them. Tokyo, I go back quite often. I go back probably once a year. I dance there quite often as well. So last year I did the World Ballet Festival there, so that was quite an experience because COVID was quite present still, and so we had to isolate in a hotel altogether, and we weren't allowed to go out anywhere. We could only go from the hotel to the theatre, and we were accompanied by somebody to come back, and it was quite funny. But it was a really strange but nice experience.